Hi, Lisa White, IVF coach with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, here for a special Soul Sister conversation. You're going to get to meet Clay Ziegler. Welcome, Dr. Clay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know, I'm so excited to have this chat with you. Like, for everyone out there, you are Olivia's dentist.
Yes, I am.
It's such a special connection when we met about a year ago, I think it was. Or is it 2 years ago when we first
It
connected?
was I wrote it down because I was
Oh,
tracing our story. It was November of 2019, so almost 3 years.
no,
But
no.
I met you guys that first time, and then the next couple of times you saw the other dentist in our practice.
Yes, we saw
So
another
it
dentist
kind
who
of
went
feels like it's
straight
only
to
been a
where
year.
I went. I love our story because, yes, thank you. Time just is flying by.
I
I'm
know.
like, how in the world is this possible? So when I saw another dentist at your practice and was talking about, she asked what I do. I was talking about my book and I wanted to bring in my book for her. And she goes, actually, I'll let you tell the story, but I didn't even know we're going through a fertility journey yourself
Mhm.
or IVF. And she's like, I have the person to give this to.
Yeah, it's really the craziest story, and I mean, we met, um, I couldn't remember if I had talked to you about fertility, but that's exactly it.
Oh, you
So,
didn't. It was through the other doctor. Yeah,
what's
Dr.
so
Lynn.
funny is the first time I met you and Olivia, your precious daughter,
Mhm.
I had actually just had my second embryo transfer. So my first embryo transfer was a success. I had a 1-year-old at home. We were so excited. We went for the second
Mhm.
transfer. The first transfer had been so easy breezy. I thought, oh, this is just great. We're going to just do the same thing. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I had the second embryo transfer. I got the call that I was pregnant on Halloween. I mean, I went back and literally like I mapped out our time.
I'm so glad you did.
I got the call on Halloween of 2019 that we were pregnant with our second embryo.
Okay.
And we knew that was a girl. We knew she was a girl. I met you guys November 1st. So literally the next day. But I
Oh,
guess, at that point I was literally, a day pregnant practically. So I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't tell you. I don't think we had any conversations about fertility.
mm-mm.
Um, that cut to about 2 weeks later, I went for the first ultrasound and the screen was blank, just totally black. There was no heartbeat. There was no, it just, the baby apparently, or the embryo implanted, but it didn't continue to grow. It didn't take.
Um,
And I just was completely blindsided and unprepared. Looking back, I realized how naive I was throughout the
mm.
process. Like I just
Oh, I
thought,
know.
it
All of
worked
us.
one time. This is awesome. It's going to work again. This is great.
How did
Um,
you conceive your first child again?
so
Through?
first one was through IVF. So
Through
to
IVF.
back up a little bit, my husband and I, we got married a little bit later in life. I mean, I was almost 30 when we married. We
Mhm.
wanted to kind of have a married life before starting a
Yeah.
family, so we knew we were going to hold off a little bit. And then I actually decided to go back to school for pediatrics. So I'd been a dentist for many years, and then I went back to residency to specialize in pediatric dentistry.
Mhm,
So we
mhm.
put off having a baby till I got through with all of that. And so I was 34, I guess, at the time when we really started getting serious about trying. And we just knew time wasn't on our side. So we
Mhm.
didn't really wait. We immediately almost reached out to a fertility specialist just to make sure, like, if there's anything we need to be doing differently. And they recommended IVF after all the testing and whatnot. I
Okay.
actually have a very similar story to you. I had polyps in my uterus that had to be removed. So we did that and we
Okay.
tried. I thought after that, okay, surely I'll get pregnant on my
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
Especially because I got my period every 28 days. I was very regular. I just didn't ever anticipate. I mean, no one
Yeah,
anticipates.
no one anticipates they're gonna have to go through this.
Right. So I tried 3 rounds of IUI, which didn't work. So we just moved
Mhm.
straight to IVF. And that's
Wow.
how I had my first child, who's now 4. His name is Willie. But
Mhm.
we were just so fortunate looking back, hearing other stories and how, it took multiple rounds and there were so
Yeah.
many failures. We really were so lucky. We did an egg retrieval. We got 3 healthy embryos from that, which in my mind automatically meant 3 kids. Like, oh, how
Right,
awesome,
we
how
think that.
wonderful. Like, this is great. So we transferred the first one, and the first one that we transferred, who is now the 4-year-old, we transferred that embryo because that was what the doctor recommended. He recommended only one at a time, and
Mhm.
he was like the biggest or the best grade or whatever I don't know all the terminology. I should know
Were
it.
you living here at the time or were you
Living
living?
here, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we were living in Colorado, and we were actually living. I went through CCRM,
Okay. Hmm.
and everything just kind of lined up for us. Like the doctor that we used,
Yeah.
he was kind of a mutual friend of ours used his good friend as a fertility guy. It was
Yeah, I know. It's always
like,
like I got connected through her, who knows her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and like my doctor's mom lives in Alabama. I'm from Alabama. There's
Right.
just little things that just seemed like this is all lining up right. So
Mhm.
we started the IVF process. We transferred the first embryo. We had the baby, no complications. Everything just went. I mean, I wouldn't say everything was smooth. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
everything was smooth. It was
And
definitely a bumpy ride.
Polyps
But
were
it
the
worked.
second one, not the first one, right?
First one.
Oh,
I'm
first one.
like all over the place here. I'm
No,
really
no, no.
sorry.
It's all good. If you had
My
polyps.
timeline is not really well. Yes, we met with the fertility doctor,
Yep.
did all the testing. They discovered the polyps,
Okay.
removed the polyps,
Yep.
tried naturally for a little bit longer, didn't work. Tried the IUI, didn't work. Moved
Mm,
on to IVF, it worked. The IVF worked.
wow. After 3 rounds of IUIs, which I never experienced IUI. I never had.
I mean, they're not fun, but it's not nearly as it doesn't take its toll on you like IVF does.
Yeah.
But with the IVF, we did one egg retrieval. We got these three
Mhm.
healthy embryos. We didn't have to do multiple rounds. It just all felt like, oh my gosh, how are we so lucky?
Yeah.
Transferred the first embryo, had a healthy baby. I thought this is fantastic.
Right.
Once that, they recommend, I think our doctor recommended waiting at least a year after the first, which is a very
Okay.
nice recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes, we waited till our first baby was one before we went for that second transfer.
Okay. Gotcha.
The second transfer, we knew it was a little girl, and we I transferred. I got the call that I was pregnant, and then the date after that, I met you. And then, but we didn't talk about IVF or fertility or anything because we just didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
So I was on cloud nine at that point in time. This was November of 2019. And then
Okay.
around Thanksgiving is when I went for the ultrasound, when we realized there was no heartbeat, that it didn't fully take. And I
Mm.
just, again, I wasn't prepared for that, which is like, it's kind of unbelievable. Like, of course, it might not work, but once you get the call that you are pregnant, you just feel like, okay, I
Mhm.
got this. It worked. This is going to be great. And
Yeah.
it had worked the first time. So I hadn't experienced it not working.
Mhm.
So I remember, being just totally shell shocked. And um, the doctor said, you'll get what seems like a really bad period in the next few days. And then in a month, we'll regroup. So that's what we did. It was November of 2019. I lost that second transfer. And it was super early on. It was like the 6-week ultrasound when we
Well,
realized
any time is never a good time.
it's
Yeah.
awful. It's awful.
Mm.
So in December, we regrouped with the doctor,
Mhm.
and we had 3 embryos total.
Yeah.
One is Willie, who's now 4. The
Yeah.
second was the little girl that we lost. We had one left. We regrouped with the
Mhm.
doctor in December, and he said, let's take. I was still I mean, just such a mess. I was in such a low depression, which is kind of crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. It is
No.
what it was. But I had this healthy 1 year old at home, 1.5 year old, who I loved and who I just, you know, I had everything to live for. But I really
Mhm.
was like in a depression like I've never been in before after that loss. And so the doctor recognized that, and he got me on medication, and he was like, let's wait
Mhm.
3 months. You need to take some time and heal from this, and then we'll regroup in 3 months. So this was December of 2019. So January, February, March 2020. That was when we
Oh
were
my
going to
COVID.
regroup. And the universe was like, nope, not going to do it. That's not happening right now. And
Did you
I'm
have
like,
anything shut down with your clinic at that time? Were they like,
we shut completely down
oh,
for like 6 weeks, I want to say, or
yeah,
maybe
okay.
longer than
You
that. I
were,
can't
you
even
were right
remember.
in that. You were right in the middle of that.
Right in the middle of that. But that was like honestly like such a blessing because it allowed me time to really focus. I stayed home. My little one had daycare was shut down, So I just was home with him, and my husband works from home. So we were all home together. And, it really let me focus on the little one that I had and not
Mhm.
dwell in the little one that I lost.
Right.
It was just looking back on it, like what a blessing. I mean, it's a terrible time for so many people, but for me personally, it felt like a really important time to just focus on what I had right in front of me
Mhm.
and not the things that I didn't have that I thought I so
Mhm.
desperately wanted. So that put a pause on the third. We had this third embryo frozen, but I certainly wasn't transferring it. Even the fertility clinic shut down. They weren't doing any transfers. And so
Okay.
I just thought, okay, when the right time comes, I'll know it and I'll be ready to move forward. That
Mhm.
time didn't come until probably the end of 2020. Like by December, when things kind of started
Yep.
getting a little bit back
Yeah.
to normal, we met with the doctor again and we decided early 2021 we were going to transfer this third and final embryo. And so by now I'd had one successful transfer and then one failed transfer. So, this third
Mhm.
one was like, okay, this is a 50-50 shot. I've been through both scenarios, but I was so much more nervous.
Can I ask you, were they genetically tested? Did you do
Yes,
those? You
yes.
did that.
So
So you
we
knew
ended
they
up.
were healthy. Yeah.
Yes. So that
Mhm.
was also why the second failure was such a shock to the system. We
Mhm.
actually had 5 embryos
Okay.
after all was said and done, but
Retrieval.
when they
Mhm.
genetically tested them, only 3 came
We
back.
came back. Okay. Gotcha.
So I just in my mind that meant, okay, 3 genetically healthy embryos equals 3 healthy children. Perfect number. This is fantastic. So that was the doctor later told me, that there are some things that just don't get caught on the
Yeah.
genetic testing. So it's not 100% accurate,
Mhm.
of course.
Yeah.
But with this third transfer that we transferred in March of 2021, I was just a nervous wreck because I thought I couldn't imagine not transferring, but I also couldn't imagine going through that loss again. Um,
Mm.
Actually, let me back up. I'm sorry, my story.
Okay.
This is a perfect example of how infertility. This
This
is
is
like a it's
we
a
think it's a straight shot and it
no,
is
ma'am. It is
full of highs, lows. And like honestly, people ask me to retell my story at times and I'm like, "Oh yeah, what happened first? Did my
it,
doctor
it is
leave or
just
did I have
so
the scar tissue
convoluted.
removal
Yeah,
then?" It's like
it's
it's
crazy. I To back up a little bit, once March of 2020 hit and COVID shut everything down,
Yeah.
knew we are going to put a pause on all of this, and I
Right.
actually got pregnant naturally that summer.
Oh, wow.
This is where this conversation all started. How you and I kind of connected and
Yeah.
bonded. I somehow, by some miracle, got pregnant naturally, and my husband and I were just over the moon. Like we thought this is insane. Like we'd heard of this happening, but
Mhm.
like we didn't think it would really happen for us. And I went to the doctor and they said, yes, you're pregnant. And I went and had blood work and then I went back 48 hours later to make sure that the numbers were increasing or doubling
Yeah.
or whatever they're supposed to do. And they worked. So like I promise you, I wrote down a timeline of things so I would remember exactly. On July the 6th of 2020,
That's our anniversary. Oh my god,
okay,
crazy.
on your anniversary, I found out that yes, I was pregnant, but it was not viable.
Oh.
And the following week, you came in to the dentist with Olivia, and that's when you left the book with
Oh,
my partner.
2021, last year. Gotcha.
No,
Right?
it was 2020. It was right when we had opened back
2020?
up after COVID.
Okay,
I know.
2020.
Trust
Gotcha.
me, it's hard to keep track. But basically, I had lost a transferred embryo. I had lost a natural pregnancy. And a week after finding out that I was losing that natural pregnancy, I show up to work and there's this book on my desk. And I'm
Ugh,
like, I look at my boss and I'm a mess. I'm just so, because it was weird. I knew that the pregnancy wasn't viable, but I hadn't actually lost the baby yet. So it was like a waiting period of when am I going to actually miscarry? Um, and I thought my boss gave it to me. And I'm like crying and like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And she's like, no, 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 that's not for me. And then I opened it up and you had written to me in it. And it couldn't have come at a better time. And I
mm,
opened the book up and I was so sad, but
no,
that was like the universe saying it's going to be okay. And you had no idea.
no. No idea.
But, and I, just crazy town.
Wow.
So that's how.
So grateful. Like, this is why I wrote it, to reach women who are just striving to like hold on through this ride. It is so hard. Who've gone through loss, who want to grow their family, become a mom, and I'm just so thankful you received it like you did, and it touched me so much.
Crazy. It was just, I mean, it really, if you had brought it at any other time, I would have loved it, but like, I just needed it right at that moment. It was a week after I found out that natural pregnancy wasn't viable. And then a week after that, after a week after getting your book, it was an actually miscarriage. So yeah, it just was the time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And your story continues. So what happened kind of
My husband was in the kitchen getting
Hello, thank you for letting me talk with your wife.
Pretzels. Okay, sorry.
Your conversation. Yeah. So reading that book, that was okay. So 2020.
Yeah. So we were still on a pause at that point in time. We just weren't ready to move forwards. And then by the end of 2020, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I think I can go forwards with this last embryo that we have and give it one last shot. And so we did. We transferred in March of 2021, and I had the second baby, another little boy, in November of 2021. So he'll be a year in a few months.
What's his name again?
James.
James.
Willie and baby James.
Willie and James. Oh my gosh. So sweet. And yes, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, fertility challenges, like, they're so common. We just don't talk about them.
Yeah.
And everyday women, you never know when you're out and about. Like, I had no idea, like.
It's great that I feel like people are talking about it more.
Yeah.
It is so common, and it is just, but I think the hardest thing about it is that you just never picture it being a problem. You're taught like, okay, this is how you get pregnant. Don't do this, don't do that. You spend your entire life trying not to get pregnant.
Exactly.
And then you think when you're ready, it's just going to be easy breezy. And when you're thrown this curveball, it's really, really hard. And you do feel alone. So to know that you're not alone is helpful.
Did you know many people going through it when you were going through?
I had one super duper close friend who did. And, so it's interesting because like I kind of waited to try to start a family till I was a little older.
Yeah.
Most of my friends had, got married, went to college, got married, had babies right away.
Because you're from the South, you're from Alabama, right?
Right. That's what you do.
That's what people do.
And most of my friends followed that. They did that. But I had one friend who struggled, and with every other friend's announcement, I would reach out to her and I'd say, how you doing? I know this must sting, but I wasn't trying yet, so I didn't fully understand.
Right.
But she was a really big support for me. It's interesting because I think she did like 11 rounds of IUI or something insane.
Wow.
And a few rounds of IVF. And finally, she got pregnant with twins. She has a little boy and a little girl. They're in kindergarten now. But she was so supportive of me and somebody I really leaned on when I started going through it years after her. But at the same time, it got kind of weird because when I had the failed transfer, she was reaching out and so supportive. She lives in Alabama, so like I don't see her much, but we talk all the time. And I almost felt like resentful a little bit of her because it was like, well, I know you understand, but you got what you wanted. You wanted 2 healthy kids, you wanted a boy, you wanted a girl. That's exactly what you got. So like, do you really understand? It's the emotions that you feel that are just all over the place. It's important to know that they're okay. And like, I have since talked to her about that, and she's like, I totally get it. Like, I understand how you felt that way, but I almost kind of pushed her away because I felt like, it was so easy for her to say, this is all going to work out. It's all going to be okay, because it did work out for her. But for a lot of people, it might not work out. And that too is hard.
And I appreciate you sharing about kind of those mental health struggles and how you got some support in that area, some people need medication and it's a real thing and it's
Yeah.
nothing to be ashamed of.
No, not at all. I reached out to my doctor after that second loss and got on medication. I went to therapy all throughout this.
Mm.
I just there is no shame in it
Was
at
it a
all.
fertility specialist or was it just kind of a general?
It was just a general therapist, and I wish I had known you at the time,
No.
because I do think it's so to
Mhm.
know that the person has been through it themselves and they
Yeah.
just can really relate. It was I had been seeing this person for some time even beforehand to deal with
Mhm.
anxiety and some other issues,
Yeah.
but she was great, and just having someone who can listen. You know what you write about in your book, the point about journaling, I think that is so important to get
Mm.
the thoughts that you're thinking out of your head either on paper or to talk about it to someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
And
Thank
to
you for
me,
sharing.
talking about it to a stranger was helpful because I talked to my husband about it and he was so supportive and he listened, but as my husband, he kind of wanted to fix it, and like sometimes
Oh.
you just need to get it out. You don't necessarily need the answer right away, or
Mhm.
it's not gonna make the problem go away, but it's gonna at least get it out of your brain and release
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Journaling is so therapeutic and helpful. And you're right. I mean, just getting it out. And were there other kind of tools or practices? I know you're into reading and yoga and different
Yeah,
things
so,
like that. Like, what were there any other like exercises or things you were doing along the journey that supported you through it?
I got I got kinda lazy in the beginning. I thought, "I'm doing all of these things, I'm working." I couldn't, like, add on one more thing, although I
Yeah.
should have, like, I think it would have
No.
been really
Yeah.
good for me, but with the last at one of my appointments at the fertility clinic, there was a business card on the countertop as you check out and spend all of your money. Um, and it was for an acupuncturist. And I
Uh,
had done acupuncture like before and after each transfer, but I hadn't really done it like,
like through.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I thought, why not? I'm going to give this person a call. And that was huge for me. I went to
Mhm.
this place that specializes in like basically just women and women's health and
Mm.
reproductive struggles, whether it's postpartum issues or menopause or
Yeah.
infertility. And the lady who did the acupuncturist, she really set me up with a plan of
Mm.
like these are some supplements I want you to start taking. This is a
Okay.
breathing exercise I want you doing. This is a meditation I want you to start listening to. And
Mm.
I found that to be really helpful. I almost need somebody like you. I need like a coach who can
Mm.
say, these are
Mhm.
the things I need you to do, and I'll do it. But it's hard. It was harder for me to like come up with my own ways of doing. Like I
Well,
needed somebody to guide me.
yeah, yeah. And I think as a coach, like my job and my role, I see myself as not like telling people what to do, but also more like inviting people to kind of consider just going about this really more out of the box,
Yeah,
really tapping more inward. I think there's so much, like you said, people want to do more and the shoulding, like
yeah, the
thinking
shoulds
I should
kill
be
you.
doing this, I should be eating that, should not
Mhm.
be eating that, or should move this way, exercise or not. It's just there's so much. And it's like, I think we've gotten so far, so detached from like listening to our own inner guidance,
Yes,
where we know intuitively, like trusting in that. I think a lot of us like lose that sense through this
sure,
journey,
for
you
sure.
know,
But
but it
having
is.
somebody that can help you, like I don't know. I just felt like I I I couldn't make one more decision.
Right.
I couldn't
Yeah, you
like
get so in it,
yeah.
right?
I needed somebody to say, try this.
Oh, yeah.
It just really that helped
Just
me. And I
an
wish I honestly like
invitation.
I think what you're doing, if
Mm,
anybody is out there struggling and needs just like some advice or a shoulder to lean
yeah,
on, like what
thank
you're doing
you.
is so amazing and awesome.
Thank you. And I know it's like for everyone, it's so individual. Like some people really thrive more on a one-on-one, like intimate one-on-one, coaching support, or some want the group. And were you ever involved in a group of any sort, or do you wish you were had a
That
group?
was interesting question. And I was in a group and I hated it.
Oh,
I needed the one-on-one.
was
And
it a big group? Like how many people were in
when I
this?
say a group, you're gonna laugh. It was a Facebook group.
Oh,
But
don't tell me one of the like thousands of people in that group.
and I again, it was like information overload to me.
Oh, I'm not a fan.
No, I no thanks. And also, I have realized that I'm the type of person, and I think a lot of us are, that I compare and despair. So
Um,
like I would just I just it was too much. It was like I
it
wanted
is. It kind of sometimes creates more uncertainty or more like questioning of
yeah,
like, well, they're doing this. Should I be doing that?
exactly. And oh my
Like,
gosh, that happened to them. Could that happen to me? Like
oh,
what
I
no, you
know.
could lose. It was
Yeah,
I,
they mean
I,
well. I really think those big groups like mean well, but I think an intimate setting with just like a select group of women is like so much more beneficial, like eliminating all these external distractions.
yeah. And in fact, I got completely off of all of social media, and that was like huge for my mental health.
Good in a positive way, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, being a doctor, like how was it being a professional, working, going through this?
That was it was hard. It's I mean, a lot of people have full-time jobs. So at the time I was working 4 days a week. And so
Mhm,
managing the appointments and all of the
mhm.
monitoring and the blood draws. And,
Ay,
for me too, like I think sometimes you have to just say to yourself, I'm going to put myself first. Like I can't,
yes.
I have to for this short period of time, and then I will be back and be there for everybody else.
Yeah.
But for me, in our practice, people schedule their appointments 6 months in advance. So I can't be like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry you had that appointment that you've scheduled months and months ago. I'm not going to be there. So I really had to navigate, I mean, the things that I did, like showing up at the fertility clinic at 6:45 in the morning before they're even open, and
Yeah.
just to make sure I could get to work to see my patients. It was
Wow.
challenging, but I was so fortunate. As you mentioned, you met my coworker. She's actually my boss,
Yeah.
and she knew
Dr.
I
Mudd.
was going through all of this. Dr. Mudd is my boss, and she's
Mhm,
amazing. And
mhm,
she passed your book along to me, but she knew. I was very upfront with her, and she was like,
mhm.
what do we need to do? How do we need to make this work?" And
That's so wonderful.
because a lot of people don't have that. I mean, I can't imagine working in an office where you have like a male boss who doesn't get it, and you just can't
Yeah.
take the
No,
time. But
that's huge. I think that's so important that thank you for shedding light on that. I mean, having a work environment, a boss, coworkers, people that understand and can support you.
yeah,
So,
and in the dental office, a lot of times the assistants, the hygienists, it's a very female.
yeah.
We have a lot of females, but that was great because they understood, and they
Mhm,
knew when I had losses. That
mhm,
they took care of me, and I'm so
mhm.
thankful.
I love hearing that. Oh my goodness. Has IVF like changed just you as a mom? Like how has it given you any like new perspectives? Has it made motherhood like easier in a way, knowing what you've like having gone through what you've gone through?
Oh
Like
yeah,
thoughts you can share on
definitely. I think I'm pretty laid back. It's like not a lot rattles me
that?
because
Same.
I'm just so thankful to have them. It's like
know.
we can, and I remember thinking like, Lord, if you just help me get them here, I will take care of the rest. I mean, I will still need
Oh,
your help, but I
yeah.
will handle anything that comes along the way. I just need to.
Mhm.
I knew once they got Earthside, we would be okay. Like I just
Oh,
needed
yeah.
help to get them here. But I'm a pretty laid back person mostly. But I definitely don't freak out over the little things. Every little thing is just a blessing. And
Yeah.
yeah, we don't take it for granted because we know what a struggle
Oh,
it
for
is to
sure.
have them.
Did you have like a mantra or any kind of special thing that you held on to going through this that helped ground you or support you as you were just striving to bring them earthside, as you said, like was there anything that you were like, I don't know, so that just brought that sense of like, this is all working out for us, kind of?
Well, since I'm on the other side of it, I've done a lot of thought work and like understanding that my
Yeah.
thoughts create my emotions, and that drives
Mm,
my actions, and that creates results in my life. But in the middle of it, I didn't have those thought work tools, so I feel like I was just trying to keep my head above water the whole time.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just I just kept going. I literally just kept putting one foot in front of the
Mm,
other. And I really leaned a lot on my faith and prayer,
Yeah. Okay.
and knowing that like others were praying for me was really comforting for
Oh,
me. But it was hard to keep the faith, and it was hard to understand, why I felt like I had, been a good person. I had always tried to be a good person, and why did I have this
mm,
burden to carry? It just didn't seem fair. But then, you look back and you realize that's life. Life isn't fair, and we all have our own individual
mm,
struggles. And
mm,
if it's not infertility, maybe it's the loss of a parent, as you
mm,
well, or
mm.
the a cancer diagnosis. I mean, there's just always something,
Yeah.
and just put one foot in front of the other. Just keep going.
That's really good advice. Is there any other like last few words you would share to someone who's really in this place of waiting, in the struggle, really just want to be a mom more than anything? You and I both know that feeling very well. Like, any things you'd like to leave people with?
I wrote down a few thoughts on that. One, I think in your book you mentioned to like not if you have to go down the road of IVF, just don't have
Mhm.
any expectations. I
Mhm.
went in very naive, thinking I can pick and choose the gender, I can decide the timing, how far apart do I want these kids to be. That is not the way it goes.
I know.
That is, you just can't have any expectations. You keep putting one foot in front of the other, and whatever path you end up going down will be the right path for you, even though you won't believe that in the moment. Like, it's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of it, but just keep
Mhm.
going. And then also, like, let yourself feel all of the feelings and get them out of your head, write them down, talk to somebody about it. I feel like I've doubled my misery a lot, because I would be feeling so down and depressed, and then I would see, a friend's or even a stranger's pregnancy
Mhm.
announcement, and it would make me so jealous, and it would bring up all these ugly, ugly feelings, and then I would feel terrible about having those feelings. So now I feel terrible twice. So
Oh
like,
my God.
that is okay and it's totally normal, and let it out, because if you bottle it up like I was doing at the time, it just it makes it so much the struggle so much harder.
So
Um,
true. So
but I
true.
think too, like, just finding the little things that bring you joy, and knowing the things that might trigger you. Like for me, staying off of Facebook and social media I mean, I know that sounds so silly,
No, it's a big
trivial,
deal.
but like
Yeah.
that was huge for my mental health.
Yeah.
That really made it a huge difference for me. So just knowing yourself and what things like maybe wouldn't be so good for you, and things that would be good, and write them
Mhm.
down and make an intention to either do those things that bring you joy, or stay away from those things that might make it
Yeah.
harder for you.
Such good advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've
Just
loved having this talk with you.
I know, I know.
I'm
I'm
so
sorry
glad
my story was
it's all good. I'm just thankful that you were willing
yeah,
to
of
have this
course.
chat with me and really open up. I appreciate your vulnerability and
Yeah. It's
you
important that we all know that everybody's
know,
story is different, but we all share the same heartache. But
for
there
sure
is light at the end of the tunnel, for
there
sure.
is light. Oh, well, thank you. Well, I hope to see you sooner than later. I know we only get like one visit a year. Well, maybe I
I
guess
know.
6 months.
Well,
6 months now, every 6 months.
technically it's me too, but that's okay.
She's at the age now where they say come in twice a year now. So,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you
And
for inviting me. I'm honored that you would even have me come share my story.
oh, well, thank you. Really appreciate it. And for anyone who's on this path seeking some support, don't do this alone. Reach out to me at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Clay.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.